something to say, there's something to say.
Hey everybody, Our House 21 here with a quick status update. Now, what you see in front of me is my good friend, the unnamed slash 4x4, well, slash rally that I've converted into a slash LCG that I've been basically using as my preferred vehicle lately. And I've commented before just the fact that the four-wheel drive platform is so much more precise than the Rustler two-wheel drive platform, but that doesn't say that it's better, it just says it's different. Some people like the big, powerful muscle car, spin out the rear wheels platform. Some people like the more precise sports car, European type car platforms. I think the Rustler versus the Slash is the same type of thing. They're two completely different experiences. But that being said, I had this guy outside going up the hill in my backyard and slashing around in mud puddles and all sorts of stuff. And that led me to a realization that even though this is a vehicle with fully waterproof electronics, the mechanicals, the bearings, basically the vehicle itself is not really waterproof. It's highly water resistant. So what that means is you have to sit down and you have to do some maintenance. So if you look around here, you'll see all this crud came from inside. Sorry, let the camera focus. But all this was inside of this. And I'll copy in some other pictures for you earlier so you can just see the extent of how much, basically how badly I beat the living crap out of this thing earlier today. But whenever you guys take your cars out and submit them to that kind of torture, it's good to come in and spend a little time to pull everything apart and just do some quick examinations. So first obvious thing, you have your wheel bearings, and these are fairly well insulated down here, but you need to give them a check. If water got in there, the stock bearings corrode, and they can corrode pretty severely. So if they roll pretty smoothly, like one of the little tricks I did with my cars, I gave it a little liberal spray down of key points with WD-40. WD-40 is, repels water, so it helps to try to keep the water out of areas that you don't want it. The water still can creep up inside of there. So it's probably worth it to take off the wheels, take out the bearings, just give them a quick status check, just make sure that everything's okay. Also with the slashes, it's a good idea to take off this little housing back here, and I just put this thing right back on right before I did my tear down. I'll just go ahead and pull it off real fast. But for those of you not familiar with the Slash or the Slash LCG platform, you've got this nice little cover here that covers your pinion and your spur gear. And this, even though it looks like it's really well insulated from the back, from the top, there's plenty of passages for all sorts of debris and crud to get in here. So with the Slash, the rear clip comes off, so the whole rear drivetrain comes apart with 4 screws. Just take those guys out, pull off the whole rear section, pull out your slipper clutch assembly, and check that guy. I had water all inside of my bearing that supports the slipper clutch. So, well, what do you do when you find that you've got water in there and all the oil seems to be out and it feels like sandpaper when you turn it? Well, the easy thing to do would be just to junk the bearing and replace it, but I am a cheap bastard. So I went back into my toolbox and I dug out my handy dandy tube of Phil's waterproof grease for ball and roller bearings. There's all sorts of bearing greases out there. I just happen to like this stuff because it, back when I was riding my mountain bike a lot, this was a highly recommended bike store product. And there's other really good stuff out there. The thing I like about this is the fact that, if we can get it to read here, it actually repels water. So, and it has good rejection of contaminants, forms a nice good seal. So it may not be the best flowing grease out there, but it works. And I bought a big old tube of it a couple of decades ago, and I'm still just barely dipping into it. So you don't really use a lot of this stuff. So just something to have in your toolbox. So, and another little thing that I did notice, and I'll, like I said, spice in the video before, this slash, basically the underbody tray just becomes a dirt bin. When you're sloshing around through the mud and the dirt and everything, it, it just fills up inside of here. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous the amount of leaves and rocks and all sorts of gunk that was built up inside of here. And the first obvious passage of it is underneath the body through the wheel wells and up and over. But the surprising one is right here through where the drive shaft goes through. So I stole a trick that I've seen a lot of guys put up on YouTube. It's where you take some sort of media, something, and you put it around this hole. And so basically you plug up the hole and then slide the drive shaft through. So I went to my toolbox again and I pulled out some some industrial Velcro or industrial strength Velcro. And I took the fuzzy side of it, took a small piece, looped it around into a full barrel, and took a little bit off the sticky backing where it would come in contact with the chassis, so it was holding itself in place, and meandered, or I should say persuaded the drive shaft to get through here. So now that has a nice seal where large debris can't get its way through here. This does have a downside though, because now I have a small amount of mechanical drag. So this causes friction to go right here. So over time, this fuzzy side is going to basically take the finish off of my nice shiny anodized drive shaft here. I could probably just squirt a little bit WD-40 into the open part here. That'll help reduce the friction, but the reality is it's still going to wear off. Do I really care? Probably not. I mean, the absolute amount of drag I'm going to get off that is probably negligible. If I was really ambitious, I could probably calculate it, but it's not that big a deal. Because the drive shaft is a high RPM, low torque part, so it's going to be spinning really fast. This is not going to really affect the driveline performance that much, but it's better than the alternative. But you say I plugged a small hole. That's a small problem. I still have big issue of all the crud coming through. Well, I think that what I'm going to have to do for future bashing sessions is go ahead and invest in the J Concepts overbody tray. Now, Jang on Ultimate RC reviewed the underbody tray and pretty much said that it's worthless. Where basically it's a tub that goes underneath the chassis. It basically just acts as a big tub to catch all the rocks that get in from inside. But the overbody tray seems to be a completely different story, because that forms a cap that sits on top and keeps the large debris at least from getting inside. The downside with that thing is that it has it cuts off a lot of air cooling, and running high power plants, you produce a lot of heat, so you need to have airflow coming in for cooling. But I did see a guy on YouTube, and I forget his name, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go and look it up and give you a shout out later, who actually came up with a really nice system for taking the J Concepts tray and rigging it with a cooling fan and air ports that allow it to vent, and sealing those up with pantyhose that he had glued in place. Really clever idea. I will dig up your name and give you a shout out later, but it's an awesome idea. So I'm thinking I might borrow said idea, and I'm not really convinced that I'm going to need to have the extra cooling fan for my bashing runs, because overall, even though I did have a little bit of overheating issue with my the stock Sidewinder SET's cooling fan, I think that's largely just because it was clogged with debris and it didn't really maintain airflow. But I've got the overbody shroud, and I've got a lot of airflow going past the body, and I open up enough holes so that air can get in through the pantyhose vents. I think I'll be okay. But all right, guys, just like I said, just wanted to give you a little heads up on what I'm up to, and have some of the fun I'm having until the weather gets more conducive to getting back into speed runs. But again, that's why I said I like having versatile platforms. Some guys, you think about RC is all personal preference, and some guys like one thing versus another. I like flexibility, so I like to be able to take hardware that might have one purpose and repurpose it to a bunch of other uses, and just kind of screw around with it. And that actually brings up another little topic. I hit eBay a little bit ago and I picked up a box of parts, specifically a box of wheels. And I'll just pan over here. So you see in the corner, I now have a full-blown collection of Jayco foams of various sizes, some stadium truck wheels. Um, some of these are kind of chewed up, but I've now got myself more tires than I know what to do with. And the cost of the box, 35 bucks. You can't beat that with a stick. I figure that here, this is a set of good, high profile, but still near perfect condition tires, $35. I mean, this is worth 30 bucks by themselves. And then I've got these black wheels here. Now, yeah, they're two different shades of black, but this matching set is a little bit chewed up, but just to kind of run around and screw around with for shakeouts and that sort of stuff. Okay, and yeah, the stadium truck wheel, it was in the box, I think, because it was cut, a little bit of wheel glue, so it'll run. It's not going to be best condition, but like I said, it's for $35 for total, can't really complain. All right, so just checking in, letting you guys know what I'm up to. So again, as always, my motto: fly, fix, fly. Get out there, take stuff, break it, fix it, do it all over again, and that's where all the fun is. So you guys take care, and I'll talk to you later. House 21 signing off.